Okay, so we're first just going to kind of start with some background just about yourself. So where did you grow up?
I grew up all over the United States.
Yeah.
I was born in Omaha, Nebraska. We left when I was 6 years old, I think. And then from there we went to, and I'll have these totally out of order.
Order really doesn't matter.
Madison, Wisconsin, Columbus, Ohio. Gosh, there's another one in there. Illinois, Crystal Lake, Illinois, Detroit, Michigan. And we finally landed in Marshfield, Massachusetts. I may have forgotten another one in there.
Wow, you did really move a lot.
And Marshfield is located about 20 minutes south of Boston.
Okay.
And it's right on the coast.
Okay, so is that where you went to high school?
That's where I went to high school, yes.
And what was the high school called?
Marshfield High School.
Marshfield High School. Usually that's the trend, but my high school wasn't even close to anything that my town was named, so I always like to ask.
Yeah, it can be different.
Yeah, okay. So Marshfield, Massachusetts, would you kind of describe it as like a more progressive town, or was it a small town feel?
It was a resort town.
Okay.
It went from about 20,000, 25,000 residents in the winter time to over probably close to 50,000.
Oh my word! Wow.
There were because it was right on the coast and it was halfway between that and the Boston and the Cape. People had a lot of summer residents. We had a lot of empty houses, cottages, whatever, right on the ocean.
So like the snowbirds would come in. That my mom lives in Florida now, so I've learned that term. The people who come in when it's cold where they live.
Right. Well, these would be the summer people would come, for the weekends, and a lot of people had houses right there on the coast and stuff. So, it turned into a resort town in the summer.
Wow, very cool. So, were you raised religious?
Yes.
And what were you raised?
Catholic.
Very awesome. So, how was that influential in some of the choices that you made in high school through activism and things like that? Or was it at all?
I don't remember consciously even thinking of that. My family was very Catholic, and the town itself was Catholic to a large extent, where, in the summertime they'd have masses starting at 7 o'clock in the morning and running until about, I think the last one was at noon, and sometimes there'd be 3 masses going on all at once.
Oh, wow.
This was a very Catholic, democratic community.
And how did that atmosphere influence some of the things that you chose to get involved in?
I think a little bit of, life, respect for life, that type, but not in the abortion sense, because there wasn't any of that. It was more anti-Vietnam.
And so how big was your family? Brothers and sisters?
There were five children and 2 parents.
And were any of your other siblings involved with you?
No. I had a sister who's about 13 months younger than I, but she never really got involved in any of it. And I don't know whether it was, we ran with different crowds.
That makes sense. So, what exactly were the activist pieces that you were involved in high school?
Probably protesting the Vietnam War, trying to get things changed in the school. One of the big ones was the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, for some reason I'm sure it tied into the Vietnam War, but we didn't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and every morning they'd come over the announcements, and they'd do the announcements and then say, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, everybody stayed seated. And looking back, I'm amazed. Our administration at the school said, well, okay, instead of that, we'll just do a moment of silence. Looking back at that, I am floored.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not for sure that some of the teachers, we had young teachers, I mean, a mixture of teachers, but a majority were young. I am sure that they were not, were more with us.
That's
Their
very
views
cool.
were similar, but they couldn't do anything about it.
They had to separate that out a little bit.
Right. Right.
That makes sense. At least you still kind of had the feel that they weren't going to, discriminate against you because you were standing up for what you believed in.
And I don't believe any of us ever got suspended for any of it.
Wow.
Not to my recollection.
Wow, that is very
cool. Again,
you
see, and you have to remember, we're on the East Coast, which is a whole different mindset than the Midwest.
Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so that's definitely one of the biggest things I realized moving out here is, extremely different, mindsets and, mannerisms and everything pretty much. When they say you're moving to the Midwest and you have Midwest values now, it's you think that they are just kind of exaggerating, but it is
there is some truth to that.
There really is. Wow, so cool. So you did got that Pledge of Allegiance pretty much changed to the moment of silence. That was so great. So then what exactly did you do in these Vietnam War protests?
Well, we would black armbands, and we would have protest rallies down in the middle of town.
What did those look like?
Bunch of us. Well, I mean, we would just leave school and just go down, and there were signs, against the Vietnam War. And then I think it was we had a couple with the elections. You have to remember, Massachusetts is a very democratic state.
Right.
And I believe it was Goldwater and Richard Nixon. Anti-Nixon, pro-Barry Goldwater.
That is so neat.
I don't think it's very much at all. I was on the fringe of it, really.
Yes, but also with everything going on today and all of the protests, and there's always so much backlash, and it's just kind of neat to see that, the vast majority of the people that you were there with in your school and in your community, were really kind of rallying with you. Yes. So what did, with that being said, what kind of opposition did you face?
Not a lot. Another thing, a lot of us were on the school newspaper, and they wouldn't allow us to print articles from the paper, from the news or anti-war or another group, I think, was the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS. Yep. Some of their views, we weren't allowed to print those into our school newspaper. The school newspaper was, so-and-so was seen with so-and-so down the hall type thing. So we all quit. And a couple of my friends managed to find a mimeograph machine. I don't know if you know what that is.
I don't.
Okay, that's pre-computer. Basically, it's a machine that could print off, like, it was just a printing machine.
Mm-hmm.
It used ink,
Mm-hmm.
blue ink. I can remember hands being covered in blue ink. And so we started an, I'd say, underground newspaper.
Oh.
And now this is where the administration did kind of step in a little bit. Not a lot. I think the first couple of copies of it that we had printed were being handed out on school property.
Mm-hmm.
And the vice principal, who is typically the disciplinarian, came through and started taking the newspapers away as they were being handed out. He would just reach out and grab from the students. I babysat for him, and I saw him picking up the papers and went, So I shoved it in the middle of a notebook.
Okay.
And he never came and asked me for it.
Huh.
So I managed to keep them. And what basically came down was, those could be distributed, but they could not be distributed on school property.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you went across the street.
Yep.
And kids were running back and forth.
So you still got it out there.
And if you were caught reading it, then it was taken away.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was, that was there.
Wow, so cool, so cool. So, was there, just like a moment where you realized that, you and your friends, just needed to kind of step up. You needed to, get this newspaper off the ground and talking about important things, or, get that Pledge of Allegiance changed?
Yeah, I don't know that there was an exact moment.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of evolved. Some of my friends had brothers and sisters that were attending Boston University,
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other colleges in the Boston area, and things were heating up, and that was filtering down.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So, when exactly did you get involved? Like, before what major point? So, like in high school, what year?
I would say the junior year.
Yeah.
Probably. It would have been junior, senior year, so that would have been 68,
Mm-hmm.
69. I graduated in 70.
Okay, so what would you say, do you think, was your major accomplishment through all of the things that you did in high school for activism?
For activism. Maybe it was just changing some of the little things.
Mm-hmm.
Dress code was another thing.
Okay.
That we, the right to wear jeans.
Yep.
I had some friends that, had, one of them had a fur coat, and she wore, this full-length fur coat and hat. You'd think we'd been up against animal, but we weren't. It's just kind of funny when I look back and I think how things have changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we managed to change the dress code. We were allowed to,
Mm-hmm.
Do the jeans. Again, the Pledge of Allegiance. It was just little things.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I wouldn't say anything major. We didn't stop the Vietnam War.
Well, yes, but,
Yeah.
it was definitely something that blew up across the nation.
Right.
So every little town matters,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So were you supported in the things that you did with your family and your friends and things like that?
More of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My family, God bless my mom and dad, they, as long as I wasn't involved in drugs, I
Yeah.
think And you have to remember, that was a big part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about 75 people out of my class got busted at a party one night.
Oh, wow.
For marijuana, I believe. And the only reason I wasn't at the party was I had to work.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know, so as long as I wasn't, involved in the drugs, they were okay.
Yeah, not quite supportive, but not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just, yeah.
How very neat. So we're really almost done. Thank you so much for coming again. But so I just want to, kind of what was some of the biggest things that you learned from being a part of these small changes?
That you start, I think you start small. And as I've gotten older, it's a one-on-one connection that you need to make. You need to do it individually, person to person. That's where change really comes, is from making a connection with somebody. If you have a very strong opinion, and just do it one person at a time.
Wow.
I mean, it was just, yeah, it was a way for us to get out of school. We had bomb threats on a regular basis.
Oh, my word.
We could always tell when there was the difference between a bomb threat and a fire drill, depending upon how far they walked us.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
A lot of turmoil.
Yeah. So what would you tell students today is important for getting involved?
First, to concentrate maybe on one issue, and get as much knowledge about it as you can, and again, make it one person at a time.
Great. So did you work with any organizations in your town? Like, were there any national organizations or small local organizations, or was it mostly just through school?
It was through school.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Especially, that your school wasn't exactly supportive, but they weren't exactly, really trying to stop it either.
Right. Right. I mean, looking back, like I said before, I am still amazed.
Yeah, that is, oh my word, that's crazy. I remember in school we had a Jehovah's Witness, and so they don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance anyway. And it was this huge ordeal because she didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because of religious reasons. It wasn't even that she, was trying to make a statement.
Right.
It was, that's just so very cool. So what similarities do you see today in the thing with the activism that goes on today?
I'll be honest, I just don't see a lot of activism. The Catholic Church does their right to life, their thing on Burlington, and I think Middle Nebraska is pretty much isolated. They're in their own little cocoon. And maybe it's just because I'm not in, I just don't get involved anymore.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's definitely a different atmosphere than from where I grew up, and, the things that we were doing. And I remember in high school we started our Gay Straight Alliance group in high school, and we had Westboro Baptist come, and that was a huge ordeal because then we counter-protested them, and were able to stand behind our students at the school, and it was a big thing with that too. And I haven't seen much of it either. So
no, You don't hear. I mean, Hastings, their latest protest was what? The free the donut?
Mhm.
You just don't.
Yeah, I think other than the DACA, the
Mm-hmm.
DACA march.
Yeah.
I mean, things like that, but yeah. So, your views and all the things that you were involved with, were they kind of always that way, or did they evolve through your education or things like that?
I I think a little bit through the education. Um, Basically a follower.
Mhm.
I was a follower.
Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to add about your time, in high school with this activism? You've done more than so many other people, so it's thank you so much for coming to talk with me because this is definitely wonderful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. It's like I don't remember any of it. I was driving in trying to remember. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't. It was so many years ago, and it was, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I don't think so.
Wonderful. This is great. Thank you so much for coming to talk with me. That's really all, yeah, that's really all I
Great.
needed. And I can let you know when it gets posted on the website if you would like to
Okay.
have access to that as well.
Okay.
So, you have any questions for me?
I don't think so.
Great.
What's
Okay.
your major going to be?
So I am majoring in